The DC-2 was the first Douglas airliner to enter true mass production and operational service. It carried more passengers, flew faster, and operated more reliably than earlier transports. Airlines adopted it quickly for longer routes where efficiency mattered. Although it was soon eclipsed by the DC-3, the DC-2 proved that modern commercial aviation could be profitable and dependable. It also saw limited military use before World War II, demonstrating how adaptable early transport aircraft designs could be. The DC-3 transformed commercial aviation by making passenger-only airline service economically viable without reliance on mail contracts. It offered greater range, reliability, and operating efficiency than any earlier transport. During World War II, it became the C-47, moving troops, cargo, and paratroopers across every major theater. Its simple construction, rugged design, and forgiving flight characteristics kept it in service long after newer aircraft appeared. Decades later, DC-3s continue flying in civilian and military roles worldwide. The A-20 Havoc was a fast, low-level attack bomber used extensively during World War II. It served with the United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union in roles ranging from ground attack to night fighting. The aircraft emphasized speed and durability over precision bombing. Crews valued its responsive handling and survivability at low altitude. Losses were high due to the dangerous missions it flew, but the A-20 proved effective where rapid strikes were required. The DC-5 was an unconventional transport featuring tricycle landing gear at a time when most aircraft still used tailwheel configurations. It was intended for short to medium-range passenger service, but saw limited civilian adoption. After the outbreak of World War II, most DC-5s were taken into military service for transport duties. The aircraft never achieved commercial success, largely due to disrupted markets, but it allowed Douglas to test design concepts that later became standard. The SBD Dauntless was a naval dive bomber best known for its role in the Battle of Midway. It was slow and lightly defended, but it delivered exceptional bombing accuracy. Pilots relied on steep dive attacks to strike enemy ships with precision. The aircraft proved durable under combat conditions and performed reliably from aircraft carriers. Its success at Midway made it a decisive factor in shifting the balance of naval power in the Pacific. The C-47 was the military transport version of the DC-3 and became one of the most important aircraft of World War II. It carried troops, supplies, and paratroopers across every major theater of the war. The aircraft was rugged, easy to maintain, and forgiving to fly under difficult conditions. From the Normandy landings to operations in the Pacific, it handled missions larger aircraft could not. Its reliability made it central to Allied logistics. The DC-4 was developed as a long-range transport and entered military service as the C-54. It was designed from the outset to carry heavy loads over extended distances, unlike earlier transports adapted from civilian designs. During World War II, it moved troops and cargo across oceans and later played a major role in the Berlin airlift. After the war, the DC-4 transitioned into civilian airline service, helping establish intercontinental air routes. The A-26 Invader was a fast attack bomber introduced late in World War II. It carried a heavy weapons load and could be configured for bombing, ground attack, or reconnaissance missions. The aircraft combined speed with firepower, allowing it to operate effectively at low and medium altitudes. After the war, it remained in service during the Korean War, where its versatility proved valuable. The Invader outlasted many wartime designs by adapting to changing combat requirements. The Skyraider was a piston-engine attack aircraft that entered service as jet fighters were becoming dominant. It emphasized long endurance and a heavy weapons payload rather than speed. The aircraft proved well-suited for close air support and rescue escort missions, particularly during the Korean and Vietnam Wars. Its ability to loiter over the battlefield made it valuable in situations where jets were less effective. The Skyraider remained operational for decades despite rapid advances in jet technology. The DC-6 was designed for long-range passenger travel and introduced pressurized cabins to improve comfort at altitude. It offered greater reliability and performance than earlier piston airliners. Airlines and government operators adopted it widely, including use as Air Force One. Although jet aircraft eventually replaced it on major routes, the DC-6 remained in service for many years, particularly as a cargo transport. It represented the peak of piston-engine airliner development. The F-H Phantom was the first operational jet fighter used by the United States Navy. It entered service in 1947 as the Navy began adapting jet aircraft for carrier operations. The aircraft was small, underpowered, and limited in range, but it demonstrated that jets could operate safely from aircraft carriers. Pilots criticized its performance, but it proved reliable in service. Only a small number were built before it was replaced by more capable designs. The F3H Banshee was developed as a more capable successor to the F-H Phantom. It featured improved engines, longer range, and greater combat effectiveness. The aircraft served extensively with the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps during the early Cold War and flew combat missions in the Korean War. It was primarily used for fleet air defense and later adapted for reconnaissance roles. The Banshee proved dependable and remained in service longer than many early jet fighters. The DC-7 was Douglas's final piston-engine airliner, developed to compete directly with long-range transports like the Lockheed Constellation. It offered non-stop transcontinental capability and higher cruising speeds than earlier models. Despite these improvements, it entered service just as jet airliners were emerging. As a result, its career as a passenger aircraft was relatively short. The DC-7 marked the transition point between the piston era and the jet age. The F3H Demon was designed as a carrier-based interceptor, intended to defend naval fleets from incoming bombers. It featured radar and missile capability, reflecting the shift toward guided weapons. Early versions suffered from severe engine reliability problems, leading to accidents and operational restrictions. After improvements, the aircraft became a stable missile platform and served effectively in fleet defense roles. Although it was quickly surpassed, the Demon influenced later fighter designs. The F-101 Voodoo was designed for speed and range rather than close-in maneuvering. It entered service with the U.S. Air Force as a long-range interceptor during the early Cold War. The aircraft was capable of high supersonic speeds and carried nuclear weapons, reflecting the strategic priorities of the period. Later variants were adapted for reconnaissance missions. Although expensive to operate and limited in flexibility, the Voodoo remained in service for decades. The A-4 Skyhawk was designed to be small, simple, and lightweight for carrier operations. It eliminated unnecessary features such as folding wings to reduce size and cost. Despite its compact design, it carried a substantial weapons load for its class. The aircraft served extensively with the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps and was widely exported. It saw combat in Vietnam and multiple regional conflicts, remaining effective due to its reliability and straightforward design. The F-4 Phantom II was originally developed as a fleet defense interceptor for the U.S. Navy, but evolved into a multi-role aircraft used by every major U.S. service branch. It was fast, heavily armed, and capable of long-range missions, though it was demanding to fly. Early versions lacked an internal gun, reflecting missile-focused doctrine at the time. Combat experience led to upgrades and expanded roles. Continuous improvements kept the Phantom in service for decades. The DC-8 was Douglas's first successful jet airliner and a direct competitor to the Boeing 707. It was designed for long-distance domestic and international routes and entered service at the beginning of the jet age. Although it sold in smaller numbers than its rival, the DC-8 proved durable and structurally robust. Many aircraft were later converted to cargo use, where they remained in service for decades, extending the design's operational life. The DC-9 was designed for short to medium-range routes with an emphasis on simplicity and fast turnaround times. It featured rear-mounted engines and a T-tail, allowing efficient operation from smaller airports with shorter runways. Airlines adopted it widely because it was economical, reliable, and easy to maintain. The basic airframe proved highly adaptable and formed the foundation for multiple later aircraft families. its influence extended far beyond its original production run. The C-9 Nightingale was a military medical evacuation and transport aircraft derived from the DC-9 airframe. It was operated by the U.S. Air Force, Navy, and Army to move wounded personnel, medical staff, and equipment over long distances. The interior was configured as a flying hospital rather than a cargo transport. Although it lacked tactical capability, it provided reliable and stable performance. The aircraft served for decades, quietly supporting military medical operations worldwide. The DC-10 was a widebody tri-engine airliner developed for long-haul passenger routes. It was designed to carry large numbers of passengers over intercontinental distances while operating from existing airport infrastructure. Early in its service life, the aircraft suffered several high-profile accidents linked to cargo door design flaws. These issues were later corrected, but the damage to its reputation remained. Despite this, the DC-10 saw extensive airline use and later became widely employed as a cargo aircraft and aerial tanker. The F-15 was designed with a single priority: air superiority. It emphasized speed, climb performance, radar capability, and weapons capacity without attempting to serve multiple roles. Entering service during the Cold War, it was built to defeat enemy fighters before they could threaten friendly forces. In operational use, the aircraft achieved an unmatched air-to-air combat record. Continuous upgrades extended its service life, demonstrating the long-term value of a specialized fighter design. The MD-80 was an extended and updated development of the DC-9, designed to improve capacity, range, and fuel efficiency. It introduced more powerful engines and modernized avionics while retaining the same basic airframe layout. Airlines used it extensively on high-frequency domestic routes, particularly in North America. Although noisier than later designs, it was dependable and easy to maintain. The MD-80 became one of McDonnell Douglas's most commercially successful aircraft. The AV-8B Harrier II was a major redesign of the original Harrier, developed largely by McDonnell Douglas to improve performance and payload. It retained vertical and short takeoff and landing capability, allowing operations from forward bases and small ships. The aircraft was complex to fly and maintain, leading to a high accident rate early in service. Despite this, it provided close air support in situations where conventional jets could not operate effectively. The KC-10 Extender was an aerial refueling tanker based on the DC-10 airliner. It was designed to refuel a wide range of aircraft while also carrying cargo and passengers on the same mission. Compared to earlier tankers, it offered greater fuel capacity and intercontinental range. The aircraft proved valuable during long-distance operations, particularly in Middle East conflicts. Although expensive to operate, its flexibility made it a critical asset for sustained global air operations. The FA-18 Hornet was designed as a true multi-role aircraft, capable of both fighter and attack missions from aircraft carriers. It balanced performance, reliability, and maintainability rather than maximizing speed or range. The Hornet could switch roles quickly, allowing it to adapt to changing mission requirements. It became the backbone of U.S. Navy and Marine Corps aviation for decades. Widespread export use further demonstrated its practicality and operational flexibility. The MD-11 was developed as an advanced successor to the DC-10, intended to offer greater range, improved fuel efficiency, and modernized systems. It featured a redesigned wing, updated avionics, and more powerful engines. In airline service, it did not fully meet performance expectations, leading many passenger operators to retire it early. However, the aircraft proved well suited to cargo operations. As a result, the MD-11 found lasting success as a long-range freighter. The T-45 Goshawk is a jet trainer used by the United States Navy to prepare pilots for carrier-based aircraft. Based on a British design, it was modified for catapult launches and arrested landings. The aircraft focuses on handling characteristics rather than speed or combat capability. Its systems are designed to introduce students to modern naval aviation safely. Despite early technical issues, the T-45 became a standard part of Navy flight training and remains in service. The MD-90 was a further development of the MD-80 series, aimed at improving fuel efficiency and reducing noise through new high-bypass engines. It retained the same basic airframe and systems layout, allowing commonality with earlier models. Technically, the aircraft performed as intended and offered lower operating costs. However, it entered service during a market shift toward different aircraft sizes. Limited demand and timing prevented the MD-90 from achieving widespread adoption. The C-17 Globemaster III was designed to transport heavy cargo directly into short, unimproved airfields. It combined strategic range with the ability to operate in tactical environments, replacing older transports that could only do one or the other. Early development was marked by cost overruns and performance concerns, but these were resolved before full operational use. The aircraft proved highly capable in global operations and became a central element of modern military airlift fleets. The C-124 Globemaster II was a heavy military transport developed from the earlier C-74 to move oversized cargo over long distances. It featured a large clamshell nose and internal cranes, allowing vehicles and heavy equipment to be loaded directly. Entering service in the early Cold War, it supported troop movements and logistics worldwide. Although slow and maintenance-intensive, it provided lift capability unavailable elsewhere. The C-124 filled a critical gap until newer jet transports replaced it. The MD-95 was the final commercial aircraft designed by McDonnell Douglas. It was optimized for short-haul routes with an emphasis on fuel efficiency, modern systems, and low operating costs. Following the merger with Boeing, the aircraft entered service as the Boeing 717. Although it was produced in limited numbers, operators valued its reliability and performance on high-frequency routes. The MD-95 effectively closed the McDonnell Douglas chapter in commercial airliner development.